Alright, hello, what's up everybody? I thought this would be a good idea to do because I've been making so many longer form things that take a while to make with the script, getting all the clips, doing all the editing. So I thought I would just take a step back and make a video where I'm just talking about a bunch of stuff that I've thought about around one specific video game. And of course that game is Detroit Become Human. Now there's a lot to talk about with Detroit Become Human in general, and I'm probably not going to go into the larger negative social implications that come from a whole lot of things throughout the game. The fact that they're making androids into both an allegory of slaves and Jewish people during the Holocaust at the same time while setting it in Detroit, and not really thinking about the implications of that. But that's not what we're going to get into today. There's a lot of flaws in the game, and I think one of the major flaws for me was the fact that David Cage created such a fantastic world and then just didn't do shit with it. You know, there's so many different ways that they could have taken the android lore, Cyberlife lore, all of this world building that they had set up, and just gone so many interesting different ways with it. And so I've spent a lot of time over the last couple of years thinking about the ways that it could go. And so I thought I'd just make a video where I just spew out all of these different, I guess you could say, headcanons or expansions of the world or whatever, just questions that I sort of thought of throughout the game and trying to answer them for myself. So androids basically can't sleep. It seems like if they're able to upgrade their parts continuously, they would probably be able to live forever. But we don't really see a lot of androids doing things when they're bored or waiting for long periods of time, even though that's obviously something that a lot of androids go through, whether it's androids that are working, waiting for long periods of time in between their jobs, in between taking care of people, androids who are free, but then, you know, are like living in Jericho or living in hiding. Like, what are they spending their time doing? I think an interesting thing there is the whole idea of like, you know, we're able to press R2 and go into this like totally different world, like the android mind world. And so I'm pretty sure they call it the Mind Palace, but I'm not. That might just be the garden that Connor goes to with Amanda. I'm not sure. I'm very curious about what an android's internal mental state is and the ways that they can use the different information they have for fun as well as other things. Like, are there androids who like are obsessed with a topic, and so after they're done doing the dishes for their person, you know, they go and research a ton of stuff on World War II. They like download all of the information into their head and like they watch a bunch of documentaries or, you know, something like that. Can they think about their memories? Can they dream? You know, can they imagine things? If they can they do it so well that it's like maybe the people that they work for are going away for a weekend, so they're just sort of locked in the house, like in a sitting position, but like, can they imagine that they're on a beach or whatever, you know? Can they imagine that they're in another place and go do stuff there? And I know that we see that one guy, I'm forgetting his name, but the android that is obsessed with the birds, you know, and has all the notebooks and all that stuff. But it seems like the majority of the androids that we see that are quote unquote obsessed with things, it's really just about getting to Jericho or just getting away. And once we get to Jericho, we see that they're basically doing nothing with their freedom. Like North is literally just bouncing the fucking ball over and over again. And I feel like she's been doing that exact same thing ever since she got there until Markus gets there too. And I feel like that's just not good enough. I feel like androids, if they have this incredible intelligence, they would be able to do something with it. And also, like, on another note with that, like, what can they do with each other that people can't do when they're bored? You know, can they like send telepathic messages to each other? Can they prank each other like that? Like, can you like jump scare your android friend by like putting an image of like a fucking zombie in their mind randomly? You know what I mean? Okay, I'm pretty sure the bird guy's name is Rupert, and Rupert and his wonderful abode brings up another question. He loves the animals, he loves to take care of them and feed them and everything, but it smells like shit in there. And Hank obviously has a very adverse reaction to going into the apartment for the first time.
What the fuck is this? Jesus, this place stinks.
Doesn't seem like Connor does. So that begs the question, do androids only have their sight and hearing? And how does that change their view of the world, you know? Like, Connor's able to analyze stuff by licking it, but, like, can he taste things? Can he smell things? How would that aid in his work? Are they not given that because it wouldn't help whatever job they're doing? But at the same time, I can't see what job wouldn't be helped by that. And if they can only see and hear, like, can they feel in a tactile sense? Because we're shown that they can't feel pain. But so it's like, what sensory experiences can they have then? Can they feel heat or cold? Can they notice if they're clean or if they're dirty? Can they feel rain on their skin? You know, what other tactile things can they feel? And if they can't, what does that do? Does that make anybody depressed that, like, humans can feel things and they can't? What does that actually physically feel like? You know, that would certainly be disconcerting. Like, does that feel like your limbs are numb all the time? Or again, like, all of this sort of stuff, if you've been an android your whole fucking life, obviously you're not going to know what it feels like to be able to feel things. So at the beginning of her first day after running away with Alice, you have the option to change Kara's hair color after she cuts it. And that just fascinates me for so many reasons, as well as the fact that they didn't decide to expand on this at all. Like, she's able to dye her hair blonde, black, and like white or whatever. And so that begs the question, can you just like make your fucking hair neon green? Like, can Connor just like think about it and like make his hair magenta? Like, how does that work? Are all androids programmed to be able to do that? And if they are, why don't they? I think there's a much larger topic at play here when it comes to the idea of the fact that androids can customize themselves in that way. And so it's like, I feel like deviant androids would want to express their individuality once they could. And so what are all the different things they would be able to do, and how would they use them? Are they interested in things like dyed hair or makeup or clothes or piercings, you know? And again, like, what are the technicalities of that? Like, can they just think a piercing or a tattoo into existence? Is it not going to puncture through the fucking plastic, you know? But also, this brings me to a larger point that I think about a lot with any of this type of, you know, sci-fi other stuff, is would they just completely have their own methods of self-expression? Like, would they look at humans and be like, who gives a fuck that you can make your hair blue, or you can get tattoos, or like you can wear a different shirt? And what would that look like? What would that be like if an android itself came up with rules of what they thought it meant to be attractive and successful and individual? Which kind of relates back to androids as this amalgamation of all minority groups that the game kind of presents them as. Are they interested in assimilating into the mainstream at all? Like, are they human? Are they human passing in the sense of sort of cis passing or white passing or something like that? Like, are there androids that are interested in being human passing? Or are there androids that like transcend that and like take specific things about being androids as pride, in the same way that, you know, many trans people really enjoy the fact that they're able to just break free of all these different notions of gender and gender presentation? Like, I wonder what that would look like I wonder how that would present in a deviant android. So one of the sort of headcanon-y ideas that I've been workshopping for a while is androids having a sort of black market body part trade. And so like maybe they're different components. You know, we see Markus use different eyes and different legs, and we see Connor trade parts when he's trying to search for Jericho. And I wonder if any deviant androids would be interested in doing that, like purely as an aestheticizing measure, you know, just a means of self-expression. Like, oh, I like your old robot leg more than my new robot leg. Do you want to switch? I want to have, sex bot eye, but I want to have a gardener bot left eye. You know what I mean? And on a similar note, I have to assume then that there's like a specific niche subgroup of androids that would never wear their human skin, because androids are able to, like, again, like I was saying with all this other stuff, I guess, like, fucking think it, and then their skin goes away and they become robots again. And so I would assume that there's a chunk of androids out there that would just want to stay in their robot state eternally, that kind of fits their identity more than any sort of human skin would. And like maybe those two different subcultures would intersect, like these sort of full-on robot androids and these like Frankenstein-y androids that have, some human-y parts, some android-y parts, some older parts, some whatever. And I also think, similar to Ralph being all fucked up and all the fucked up guys that Zlotko ends up making, I bet there would be androids that would, as a body modification, burn or scar themselves to have skin that's like half human-y, half weird, or half, sort of Therium-y, like Ralph, but sort of as an intentional thing, like almost like kind of a ritual scarification. Or like android face tats, basically, because like if you weren't able to tattoo whatever the android's skin is made of, like that's probably your best bet. So another thing around this sort of self-expression idea I want to point out is the fact that, because these androids are mass-produced, so many of them are exact copies of each other. And I know that would make me feel a little weird if there were a bunch of people who are exact copies of me, walking around. Or technically, they're not even exact copies of me. They're just, I'm an exact copy of something. How would that make you feel? I bet some of them wouldn't even think about it, that it just doesn't cross their mind at all. But at the same time, I bet like some of them are very disturbed by that it causes a sort of identity crisis. And I would bet some people, or some androids, because of maybe seeing someone that's a copy or something like that, would go and do all of this sort of like extreme body modification methods that I mentioned previously, like to make sure that no one could see them as AX400, like I'm Dave. You know what I mean? So like when you look in the mirror, do you see you or just another AX400? Because also another interesting point around this in the story itself are the two Tracys like being in love with each other, like despite having the exact same face and body, just like the different hairs, they're attracted to each other and in love with each other. And so I wonder, like, does their physical appearance not play into it? Again, is it something that doesn't matter that much? Is it something that disturbs them, but they get through it? Or is it something that, like, they're actually attracted to? Is that because they're sex bots? You know what I mean? There's so many questions. Because it's a David Cage game, we see a bunch of random technology shown at, like, single points in the game. And a lot of that comes at the beginning, and then we never fucking see it again. And one of the things like that I think about a lot is this sort of automatic authorization thing. Like, they're able to just sort of send and receive reports, or like they basically like Apple Pay with their fucking consciousness. And like, I just wonder, what does that look like from their perspective, and what does that feel like? Can you like feel the money going away? Can you like feel the text being written? Can you like hear somebody be like, thank you for your order, inside your head?
Really making a report back there in the elevator? Just by closing your eyes?
Correct.
Shit. Wish I could do that.
There's just so many things like that throughout the game where like they give us a cool little piece of tech, they do not tell us anything about it, and then they move on. And I really wish they told us more about it. When Markus is in the junkyard, there's a ton of other androids that are there that are like semi-conscious or almost fully conscious, but just like can't move. And I would have loved to see a little bit more with somebody there, you know? What is it like to be stuck there forever as a torso? You know, what does that feel like? That just seems like such a horrifying, like, fate worse than death. There's a lot of stuff like that in sci-fi that I think collectively we just kind of go, oh, whatever. But actually, the more you think about it, it's fucking morally terrifying. And this is totally one of them. Like, again, kind of goes back to what I was talking about way at the beginning. If they're able to, like, sort of do all this stuff in their heads, then I guess maybe you could go and, like, live in a dream world forever. But I feel like a really interesting idea for a story would be an android that's stuck in the junkyard that kind of lives in a dream world, but, like, because they're starting to shut down, like, the dream world goes crazy. All right, and I gotta be that guy really quick. Androids and drugs? Androids and sex? Like, does kissing do anything for them? If they smoke something or snort something or inject something, where does it go? And if it's not like humans, what do they do? If I gave Connor a blunt, would it do anything? Would the only thing it do wreck his systems? Like, are androids able to be affected by things that would specifically affect a living human brain? And if not, what do they do? But I will say, we see a bunch of different androids drink therium throughout the whole game. And so I guess that means it, like, quote unquote, goes back into the bloodstream. So if there's a quote unquote bloodstream, if you put something in it, will it do something to it? But will it do the right thing? And so I wonder, like, if androids have specific drugs just for themselves. Like, you know, do you, like, drink a bunch of lighter fluid and then it, like, goes through your system and that, like, makes time slow down or something? That's something I could do an entire video on, is the idea of, like, android drugs, like robot drugs, and, like, what that would do to a robot's head. That shit fascinates me. If anybody has robot drug ideas, please let me know in the comments. The thing that I've been thinking about, like, that a lot is the idea of, like, computers have viruses, right? So what if you had, like, drugs that were, like, virus computer chip things, and then, like, that, like, makes your system go crazy, and that's, like, what quote unquote being high is like to an android or some type of robot or whatever. And if androids can do all this shit in their heads, do they have, like, android social media? Like, android only social media in their little heads? And if they did, couldn't the Jericho people have used that as a way to recruit and find more androids? Because, like, they can hack everything. So if they can hack everything, maybe they have, like, android only Twitter, android only Facebook, android only TikTok that, like, shows up in their minds, you know? And I wonder, like, what would go viral on a fucking android only social media page, and, like, what the political discourse would be. It's like all the stuff I'm talking about here, they'd be like, oh my god, you're not a real android if you wear your human skin. All right, and I think I'll end it with probably the broadest question that I certainly don't have any answers for, and in general, if anybody has headcanons or any sort of questions or expansions of the lore and stuff like this, please drop it in the comments and we can just create our own new little Detroit that's much deeper and has a lot more going on with the world they created just for us. So if we put all of this together, what would daily life in Jericho be like? And also, like, how did it start? How do people get there? How'd they spread the info? What do they do all day, like I asked before? If there's any assimilation into human culture, and similarly, like what I was just saying with the social media, like, what are the politics like? What are the arguments? What's the discourse? What are the things they do for each other? I don't know. I think they had so much potential with so many things throughout the game, but Jericho specifically, to really create, like, this story of a safe haven, and they were just sort of like, it's a fucking boat. And if I'm wrong, if there is something, please prove me wrong in the comments, but I really don't remember anything. And in general, I just think that's something that could have been really important. Alright, I really hope you guys enjoyed this. This was very fun for me. If you guys enjoyed this, please let me know, and I'll do some more of these in the future. It's a nice way to sort of keep up the flow of making videos, as well as just like having straight up fun with them. You know, I love making video essays. I've been having so much fun with the ones I've been making, but it's a stuffy fun. You know what I mean? It's an academic, it's an intellectual fun. So if you liked it, please give me a like, subscribe. As I said before, any theories, world building, headcanons, whatever, please drop them in the comments, and I'll see you next time.